If you want to create powerful, dramatic portraits with maximum visual impact, it's essential that you learn how to effectively layer light and shadow. Hey all, Jonny Edward here in partnership with PPA at my studio, Atelier Alchimia in Denver, Colorado. And in this video, we're going to be exploring and deconstructing my approach to layered lighting, as well as my emphasis on human connection. My aspiration for this video is that you'll walk away feeling inspired to delve deeper into the art of layering light and shadow to bring your creative ideas to life. Let's take a moment to explore how layered lighting is creating depth, dimension, and drama in this scene. We're going to start by turning these lights off one at a time, and then we'll turn each of them back on one at a time with a brief description of exactly what they're doing. We're going to start with the key light, which is the primary light on me, the subject in this scene. We're then going to add fill light, which is modulating shadows and creating great tonal transitions in my skin. We're then going to bring the background light on, which is creating separation and some dynamism. And then we're going to add lights on into our environment to show the spatial relationship within the scene itself. Now, we're going to be deconstructing this in depth, in real time with our incredible model, Paulina, shortly. But I just wanted to show you very quickly about the power of layered lighting and how significant it is when it's done intentionally and harmoniously. One thing that I want to emphasize is that there is no right or wrong when it comes to art and creativity. And this is simply the way that I light, I set up my scenes, and I work with the individuals in front of my camera. Ideology has no place in creative expression. Do what feels right to you and do what is best for you. I hope as you're watching me go through my setups that you see something and at some point you go, oh, I like that a lot more without the backlight, or oh, I like that a lot more without the fill light. What you're doing is developing your visual vocabulary and defining what it is that you feel drawn to as an artist and creative, and that is what matters most, creating work that is significant to you. I would be remiss to not give you a quick tour of the space to show you where we're going to be working today. This studio has been a labor of love that has come to life over the past 3 years or so, and it has been obsessively curated, as you will shortly see. It's roughly 3,000 square feet. There are 15-foot ceilings, more lights than you could shake a stick at or ever need or want. And also, there are a lot of backdrops in here. Someone please have an intervention for me because it's a problem. Anyway, as you can see, everything is color-coded for tone, texture, and time period. This is one of the primary sets we're going to be working off of today. These beautiful grays, vintage Fresnels, industrial textures, and the like. We're going to build that out into something that's going to be very, very visually impressive. That's also going to have sort of that like Lindbergh, Leibowitz feel to it, and I couldn't be more excited about that. This is another set that we're going to be working on in the back, our infamous Grays set. I don't know exactly how this is going to come together. We're actually going to be doing that together as I deconstruct my process and exactly why I'm making those creative decisions. We may also play on that olive over there that's currently in the dark because it is so wonderfully timeless, but time will tell. So anywho, this is a creative playground, and I'm going to do my best to share it with all of you in this video, and I'm so excited. But the last thing that I want to do before we get started is talk a little bit about the gear that we're going to be using. Ooh. So in terms of the kit that I'm going to be using for today's video, I tend to be pretty minimalist with the gear that I'm working with. The body is the Sony a7R4. No, I don't have the new R5. This iteration of the R series still works splendidly for me, and I haven't found a valid reason to upgrade, not quite yet. But if any of you want to gift me a Sony a7R5, I will happily accept that. In terms of lenses, I'm working with a suite of lenses from Viltrox. If you're not familiar with Viltrox, I've been working with them for about the past 6 months or so, and the glass is top-notch. I would absolutely put it on par with Sony GM glass or third-party manufacturers like Sigma. It's that level of quality at a fraction of the price. On my camera right now is the new 35 1.2. There's also a 135 1.8, a 16 1.8, and an 85 1.4. I'm so impressed with this glass, and I'm excited to show you the rendering and what these optics are actually doing for me. Lastly, I have the top-of-the-line Sekonic light meter. I probably use this once a year. We may or may not use this today, but for those of you out there who are obsessive and who want to ask, do I use a light meter? Very rarely, but yes. And this is the model that I work with, which is the L858DU, just in case you're curious. But this is the kit that I normally work with 9 times out of 10. And yeah, we're just going to put this to the test and see what's what and get right to it. So this is our first set and scene, but before we start deconstructing this, I would like to introduce all of you to the fabulous Paulina. She's going to be our incredible model and human being for the day. I've been fortunate enough to work with Paulina on several occasions, including commercial projects for Viltrox, and she is absolutely wonderful. I say that in all honesty. She's like a cheat code. It would be almost impossible to take a bad photo of her. So yeah, she's stepping in to make sure I look good throughout the day as I'm teaching all of you. We're doing this a little bit differently than probably what you've seen before on tutorials like this or master classes or even at workshops. Instead of building this scene and set up one backdrop and one light at a time, we already have this set up for you, and we're going to be deconstructing this and reverse engineering it. So the way that we're going to address this is I'm going to turn off each one of these lights, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they're doing on the set. And then we're going to turn them back on and explore the interplay between all of them. Once we do that, I'm actually going to spend some time photographing Paulina because I would be remiss not to. We'll create some spectacular images, and then we'll sort of move on to the next set. In that next set and segment, we're going to build everything from scratch, bit by bit and brick by brick, and you're going to join me through that entire decision-making process. But for right now, let's start digging into this. Once again, Paulina, thank you for being here. Just look fabulous. You do you. So there are actually 5 lights in the scene right now, and depending on the framing, you may not see the light back here, but we have 5 lights independently that are all interacting and interfacing with one another to create this very cinematic, dynamic, dramatic, incredible look. I'll toot my own horn for a second. I think it's pretty fantastic, fabulous, fantabulous. We're going to go with fantabulous. This is a fantabulous set. But we're just going to start turning these lights on and off to take a look at exactly what's going on. First of all, I know that you can see it in this frame. We have this big overhead light that's boomed up about 10 feet in the air, and that has a 7-foot umbrella on it. And what that's doing is creating dynamic light coming down, specifically on the backdrops back here. So what we're doing is creating separation by bringing that light here, and it's also creating a rim, because what I want to be able to show is the distance and depth that's existing here on this set. So we can see what happens when we turn that light off. Looks completely different, right? So we've lost all of the depth. Now, you could argue that this looks more dramatic, and I would say that that's probably true, but to me, it's less visually impressive. I'll pop myself in here. Also, you can see what's happening with my shadow with this background light. So we have that overhead light that's coming in here that's driving into these backdrops in the far back. It's creating a little bit of a rim on this backdrop as well as on Paulina. And then we're creating dynamic separation between her and this backdrop directly behind her with this light. So if we turn that off, we see how flat things are getting very, very quickly, right? Now, she still looks fantastic, as she does, but that's because we've layered our light here. The way that we're lighting our primary backdrop and our secondary and tertiary backdrops is separate from how we are lighting our subject. So now if we start to look at this, we have this really rad old vintage Fresnel, a 500-watt stage light, a hot light. I just touched it. I shouldn't have done that. Do as I say, not as I do. But we're going to unplug that because there's no off switch. And now we've lost that golden glow and a little bit more separation that we are getting from that hair and rim light. Now I'm actually going to turn off this fill light, which is a 5-foot octa, and it's coming in on axis with our subject. Whoa, the scene is starting to look a lot different already, right? Once again, you could argue one light setup, you only need one light. You can create amazing stuff with one light. It's just not my style. This looks fantastic. And then, if we turn this light off, we're actually seeing the scene as it is, and I'm checking the monitor, and we can tell we've lost everything that we had going on right here. What we're going to do in a moment here is bring that camera off the tripod, and you're going to be over my shoulder with me as we turn each one of these lights on and explore exactly what they're doing and how they're interfacing harmoniously with one another. All right, all, so we're going to be turning these lights on one at a time in one moment, but one thing I noticed when reviewing the footage is that we are getting some influence from the natural light in the windows in the front of the studio. If you look very carefully here, you can actually see, even though you can't see me pointing at this because I'm a shadow, that there is a rim light happening on camera left, the right side of Paulina's face. To me, it's significant enough to take note of, so we do have some influence from that natural light. I would be remiss not to take note of that because it is having an impact on our exposure, on lifting shadows, and also on creating some dimension coming in from camera left. It's not anything that's huge, but it's enough where we need to make note of that. If this was more significant, this is something that we would have to address by either changing our settings or potentially adding in a V-flat to flag that light out, or even upping the power of our lights to negate the influence of that light. We have to constantly be assessing where the light is coming from in our space. But rather than continue to talk to you in the dark, what I'm going to do is turn on this first light, which is our key light. For reference, this is a Nanlite FS300B, a bicolor 300-watt constant light, and it is in a Photic G capsule 105 centimeter shallow octabox. The other thing to note on this shallow octabox is that it does have a grid on it. So that's something that we didn't address earlier, but what this grid is doing is it's making sure that the light's not spilling out. So if we didn't have this grid on, you can envision that the light would be pouring out this way in both directions, but it's making the light more directional this way. So what that's allowing us to do is keep light on Paulina's face, but keep light off of these backdrops right here. So this grid gives us more control over the light. Also worth noting, I wanted to let all of you know, is you might be wondering what things are looking like through my camera. Obviously, we're going to be clipping images in. However, this is that Viltrox 35 1.2 on my camera right now. We have a 35 1.2 on our video camera that Rachel is running as well. Also, I haven't introduced Rachel. Rachel, you're wonderful. Thank you for being a badass. You rock. Not if you hear me. Cool. So we also have a 35 1.2, and we've matched the settings on these two cameras. So what you're seeing right now in real time in video is essentially very similar to what I'm seeing through my camera as I'm creating stills. I just wanted to mention that. Now, with where this light is coming in, this is directional light, right? Because it's off axis with our subject. So as that light's coming in directionally, we're crafting these beautiful shadows on Paulina. She has beautiful bone structure, cheekbones and jawline. We're enhancing all of that. To me, directional light is very important because it creates depth. One thing that I always ask people at my workshops is, what's the difference between a circle and a sphere if you're drawing? It's shadow, right? You take a circle and you start drawing in shadow, and then you go, oh, cool, that looks three-dimensional. That's what we're doing with shadow in this scene. Ultimately, we are working with a two-dimensional medium. Photography is flat like painting, so we have to create the illusion of that third dimension of depth, and we do that through the use and integration of shadow. Also, I think my voice just cracked and I went through puberty. That was weird. We're just going to go ahead and ignore that and keep on going. But this is our base light. So what I would call this in this scenario is this is our anchor light, right? We're going to build everything around this. We're starting with this light on Paulina. We're creating shadows that feel right to us. Once again, no right, no wrong. We could bring this further off to the side, further in front. We could bring it higher. We could bring it lower. But to me, this just feels right. This is an intuitive way of lighting. This is the way that I light all of my subjects and all of my projects. Also, I hate to say subjects, all of the humans that I work with, right? That's much better. Also, before we get started, none of this matters if you're not connected to the person in front of you. When we were taking that break and we were doing some resetting here, we were having that talk about how connection is so important. I could have all of the lights set perfectly and my camera set perfectly, and then if she has dead fish eyes because I'm a jerk, the photo's not going to carry any energy with it. On the flip side of that, I could take a photo that's very technically unsound, but if Paulina feels seen and heard and celebrated and loved and appreciated, that energy is going to infuse through my camera. So we never lose sight of the fact that there's a human being in front of us, and we always focus on celebrating them and lifting them up. That is priority number one for us as portrait photographers. But to step away from humanity and back to science, or pseudoscience we'll call it, we're going to start adding in more lights again. So once again, the shape we're creating here is really, really lovely. The one thing that I'm seeing, though, is we have a very abrupt transition from our highlights to our midtones to our shadows. So I think one of the things that I'm known for is what people call painterly lighting. I think that's kind of an odd term because, I like to say my style is Jackson Pollock, and people are like, what? And I'm like, exactly. Painterly can mean a lot of things. That can mean modern, that can mean abstract, that can mean all sorts of things. But I think ultimately, the way that we use that term as photographers is talking about tonal transitions. So one of the keys to my work are very smooth tonal transitions from the highlights to the midtones to the shadows. And the way that we do that is by modulating shadows and contrast with our fill light, which is on axis behind the video camera right now. So I'm going to turn that on, and we're going to take a look at how that looks. Now, this fill light is coming from a Nanlite 720B. It is an 800-watt bicolor light. That is paired to a 5-foot octabox with 2 layers of diffusion. One really important thing to remember, obviously with our key light and with our fill light, is that basic principle of quality of light. If we want softer light, we either need a bigger light source relative to our subject, or we need it to be closer to our subject. So when you're talking about fill, it's important that if you want those soft transitions, you use the biggest modifier that you possibly can, and you get it as close to your subject as you possibly can, and that's going to create the softest and most flattering fill for this style of lighting. So we're going to turn this on right here and take a look at what's going on in real time. Let there be light. Ha-ha! And so Rachel, if you bring that camera back around to Paulina and you kind of move in here, we can see what's going on as we go from nothing and start to turn this up. So we can turn this up so high that we lose all of the shadows entirely. Now that light's flat again, right? Like this is good for a commercial project. This might be good for a beauty ad. Oh my gosh, I like using this lipstick, yada, yada. I'm an influencer. That could work for that, right? But there's not drama, there's not depth. We've lost a lot of the emotionality of the shadows in our image. So I'm gonna start turning that down. One really cool thing about these lights too is that you can change them in 0.1% increments. So I can go 40.5, 40.4, 40.3, and so on. So I'm just gonna tune this, and I call it seasoning to taste. It's like the Emeril Lagasse. We're just gonna, bam, add a little bit of fill in here, right? Just until it feels right. And I'm looking for those smooth tonal transitions without losing the drama. And I think before when we had this set up, I had landed somewhere around 12 or 15%. And that's probably where I'm going to go again. So it's a little too much, down just a little, down just a little. Okay, that's looking really good. The other important thing to remember about these lights as well is that they're bicolor. So what that means is they go all the way from 2700 Kelvin, ooh, it's so nostalgic and sunset-like, all the way up to 6500 Kelvin, ooh, I'm either at Walmart or a doctor's office. Not so great for my taste. We're going to turn that back down a little bit warmer than our key light by about 500 Kelvin because I do want to add some warmth into those shadows and bring out the warmth in Paulina's skin. That's looking really beautiful for the light on our subject right now. One thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a photo of this with my camera in real time. Every time I change this lighting and I make an iterative change, I'm going to make sure and take a photo because I may come back to this and go, I wish I would have got some shots without the backlight. I wish I would have got some shots without the background light or whatever that might be. So I'm just giving myself a chance to play and I'm just excited to create. Like I want to be creating behind my camera. So I'm going to take a couple of looks, a quick look. I don't even know what I'm saying. Everyone forgive me. This is gorgeous. Beautiful. And I'm always reinforcing, right? That's not what this little segment is about or this video is about, but I'm always reinforcing and these look spectacular. You look amazing. And I'm giving myself a chance to move through the scene. So if I come to this side and photograph, this is a very broad, open, very commercial, very just, I don't want to say generic, but I think expected look. If I come here and we'll keep your face that way, Paulina, now I'm shooting into the shadow side. Ooh, there's the drama. So dramatic. It's my Batman voice when I start getting into shadows. I'm the John. I like to create dramatic photos. That's what I do. Okay. And same thing here. I'm just going to allow myself to move around. I think of it more like being a editorial fashion photographer or a cinematographer. I think one thing that tends to happen with photographers is we come in here and we get into Warrior 2 and we get at eye level and we go click, 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 and then we saunter off, right? We lose so much possibility when we do that of creating more dynamic and interesting frames. So I'm just going to allow myself to experiment. And same thing, if I'm in this position, we'll bring your eyes back to the light, Paulina. That's beautiful. Deep breath in, breathing out through your lips. And then eyes are coming back to me from there. Perfect. And so the other thing that you'll see is as I'm actually cueing whoever it is that I'm working with, I'm not just saying turn your head, right? That's so confusing to the model because they don't know what you want. So I'm going to say, bring your eyes right here, turn your shoulders in toward me. We get a little dancey with it, right? And we have a little bit of fun. This is all looking spectacular. I'm loving those frames. So the next light that we're going to turn on is our background light for our primary backdrop. This is a Nanlite 60C. This light is full RGB, which means if we wanted to play with color, we could without gels. And it's paired to one of my favorite modifiers, which is this little Fresnel attachment, right? And the cool thing about this is we can focus and defocus the light, and we can use these barn doors to block that light out. Now, if we turn and look at this backdrop and what's happening with our light as we do this, that was Rachel's shadow, everyone. Hello, Rachel's shadow. So what we can do now is if I defocus the light, look at how broad and open that's getting, right? It's less intense and there's more spread. As I focus that light, it becomes more like a spotlight. And if I go somewhere in between, I can then use the barn doors to further shape that light into something that I think is interesting. And for me, that's pretty darn interesting right there. So now if we come back around to the front, I'm going to take a couple more photos here. Now we have some really stunning separation. We have that glow behind Paulina's head. We're starting to see more depth. To me, it's starting to build out this scene. Oh my gosh, these are glorious. Love it, love it, love it. And let's bring both hands kind of up to like chin or face. Beautiful, just like that. Stunning. Also, here, I can show you this, by the way. These are looking
Wow, looks great.
wild.
I love it.
She's happy, I'm happy, right? The person you're photographing is happy, but this interface is so amazing. Then she's like, I look amazing. I'm like, yes, you do look amazing. And then we're both amazing. And then we do the little amazing dance and we just keep going and create more amazing work. All right, so that's looking really phenomenal. Let's kind of like take up some space on the table here. Yeah, that's great, just like that. A little bit bitchy. There, that's incredible. Love that. So we're gonna stay in that position, or you can come out of it and go back to it if you don't wanna stay strained. So one thing I'm looking at now is I want to turn on that rim light, the hair light that we had on first, because I really love Paulina's position. But in that position, that golden glow is gonna take this to the next level. So we're gonna plug this back in. Once again, this is a vintage Fresnel. It's a Desisti Monet, I believe. I know, what a fancy name. The reason I like these so much is because they have this matte gray color. Like the Aries and a lot of the other lights are blue or they're silver and they just look kind of gauche and garish on scene, but this blends so wonderfully with our set. Ooh, lovely. Also, it's on this classic Hollywood stand from the 1950s that has this beautiful patina and texture that you can't pay for, you have to earn with decades and decades of wear. Very much like my face, but we won't get into that. Boom. And then this light is tungsten, so it's roughly 3000 Kelvin. One other important thing that I need to talk about here is the differential in light. So since these lights are bicolor, all of the LEDs, not that light, this light is set at 5000 Kelvin. So we have set the white balance on our video camera and on our stills camera to 5000 Kelvin to render skin tone neutral and accurate. This fill light is coming in at roughly 600 Kelvin warmer. We're warming up those shadows. And then this light is coming in as a tungsten light at its standard roughly 3000 to 3300 Kelvin, which is why we're seeing it as being so warm. So when you're working with layered lighting like this, especially layers of color, it's important that you don't use auto white balance. You have to set a proper custom white balance on your camera, and that should match your key light for your subject to render skin tones neutral, unless of course you're doing something non-neutral, in which case you would set it to whatever is appropriate for that scenario. So this is looking fabulous. Let's go back to this bit. Ah, that's incredible. It would help if I turn my camera back on, just like that. And eyes are gonna go behind me to that wall, that deep breath in again, breathing out through your lips. Spectacular. Wow, wow, wow. Chin down just a little, and chin's coming to me, just a hair. And eyes right through, beautiful. These are crazy.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh, you look so spectacular. That's Vogue AF. Also, everyone, for PPA, I love you so much. I'm doing my best not to curse. For those of you who know me, I curse like a sailor, and so I'm like, that's really fudging cool. So I just want to let you know I'm censoring myself for all of you. It's a hardship that I'm taking on because I love all of you. All right, so now we have our key light on that's gridded to control that. We have our fill light on that's modulating the shadows in the face. We have our background light on that's creating some dynamic separation. And we have this hair kicker light on that's creating this beautiful Hollywood-esque golden glow. The last step in our equation is to turn back on that overhead 7-foot umbrella that's also paired to a Nanlite 720B and to dial that in. Whee! So now I'm gonna come back and take a look at my whole set and scene and just evaluate. I'm always reevaluating. Even in this time, I'm gonna take a look at my camera and go, do I like it? Do I not like it? And if I say I don't like it, I say, well, I ask, what don't I like about it? And then I address that. So we're just gonna take a peek at this. All right, and I know I'm gonna make a couple of changes now, and this is really important in real time. You look fabulous, exactly as you are. So I need to defocus the light behind Paulina a little bit because everything else is fairly soft in the background, and this is very angular, right? Like we have very defined edges here, and so this contrast is pulling me away from Paulina. The important thing to remember when someone's evaluating your image is that they're going to look at the place of most luminosity or the greatest degree of brightness. They're going to look at the place with most contrast and with most color saturation. This highly contrasted part of the backdrop is pulling my focus away from our subject, human, beautiful model, Paulina, to the background. So I'm just going to defocus that a little bit and try and get rid of that contrast just a smidge and soften that up. And I might even open this up and it's a little bit less direct, and that looks better to me now, and I'm gonna turn that down just a smidge. Just to talk about subtlety here, everyone, too, this light is only at 4%. So it was at 5%, I turned it down to 4%. When we're talking about layering light and achieving a really, what I would consider to be spectacular result, it's a matter of degrees. Oftentimes we're changing a light by a couple of percent or a quarter stop, or we're moving something just a few degrees, and that's when something goes from good to wow, that's so amazing, right? The other thing that I noticed here is this is overpowering now. So we evaluated this earlier in real time when I was turning this on and off, but this background is brighter than anything else in my scene. So that is not doing it for me because my eyes are going rearward. So I'm gonna go over here to my fancy little ballast, and this is at 50%. This probably needs to go to half of that to be where I want it to be. So I'm gonna turn this down to 25%. The other thing that I'm noticing is that this is actually set to 5600 Kelvin. That's a gaffe on my end. That's why the background's looking more blue to me than it should, because that's so much cooler than our primary light. So I'm gonna bring this down to 5000 Kelvin to match that key light that we have on Paulina. And I'm gonna turn this down to 25%. And then I'm gonna go back to my camera, which is on the floor right there, because I'm so irresponsible with my gear. Everyone, if you don't have good insurance, get good insurance. I personally use Package Choice by Hill & Usher. Go Package Choice, they've been fantastic to us. And now, this is where I want this to be. Everything is blending so spectacularly. Johnny happy. Yeah, I actually talk like this in real shoots, everyone. You can deal with it. Love where you're going with this. Obviously, I'm not even giving Paulina any direction, and look how naturally she's moving. She's moving between different types of emotions, and that's one of the reasons I really love working with Paulina, is because she's expressive. Right? Sometimes you get people who take on really good shapes, but they always have the same face. You know, they're just like Zoolandering. So as they move through things, they're just like, and they're always just in the same face. You can tell her emotions changing. When she's here, she's poised, she's soft, she's sad, she's strong, she's powerful. It's all about the emotionality here. So let's go into something that does feel a little bit more like melancholy, a little bit introverted. Beautiful, love this. That's absolutely spectacular. I love where you're at right now. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, wow, wee, wow. Yeah, I throw a Borat in every once in a while, people. I'm not ashamed. These are glorious. Really, really glorious. Okay, so one thing that we're gonna do is I love where we're at, but I want to actually allow Paulina to stand up. In this case, we're not gonna stand up. I'm gonna have her sit on this table. This is from like, I don't know, an old Protestant church. So it's a table rich with ideology, but since it's been carrying the weight of that, it's very, very stable. Do not have someone get on a table unless you test it yourself. In this case, we can see that it's perfectly good. I know, little Dudoir never hurt anybody. So we know that's gonna be good. Don't go down yet. I'm just gonna move this back a little. So I'll have you step out for 1 second, please. Our fancy industrial stool. Bought this on Craigslist back in the day, made a dangerous friend when we bought it, as you do on Craigslist, super neat. And I'm gonna pull this back. Now, when you have someone sitting on a table, laying on the ground, it's really important to consider the direction of your light, right? So if I put Paulina's legs here and have her face here, that light's gonna be hitting her feet before her face. Now, if she was wearing something where, let's say, even a little bit of leg was showing, we'd have like a really bright ankle and a darker face, and we'd be staring at her ankle. Now, if we were selling anklets, that would work really well, right? But that's not what we're doing here. So we're gonna bring your head to this side over here, and we're just gonna get you kind of cozy, whatever feels right. Yeah, so we can kind of, let me make sure my butt crack doesn't show. We can kind of just bring you up and just have you,
Okay.
you're just too cool for school. You're like, whatever, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah. Rad, I love this. This looks super badass. Sorry, I said the A word, everyone. I apologize. All right, so this looks incredible. Now, what am I gonna have to change here? Does anyone know the answer? Call me at 720, no, don't call me, please. Well, you can call me, just not right now, because I'm in production. But anyway, we have her now sitting up. So she's moved forward in our scene, and she's raised up. So in order to maintain a similar quality of light, our key light needs to move back a bit as well. And then it needs to go up as well. And look at the difference on her arm that's down there. If my light's here, so much light is hitting the hand, and we're losing some of the shadow detail in her face, specifically carving out her features. If I bring this light, ooh, look at that, the jawline, let there be jaw. God, crazy jawline. You're so snatched. So I'm bringing that light up, and now the beautiful thing, right, is we have the focus for the light on the face, and if your hand is back here again for 1 second, then we have this lovely fall off, right? The way the light's falling off from the base of this because of the modifier that we're using, and this grid? Yeah, grid. I just totally lost my train of thought. The grid it's falling off, but all of the focus is staying here. Now, depending on my position where I'm photographing this from, I'm also going to have to raise that backdrop up, right? Because if I'm down here, it's sort of going through her shoulders, which actually I don't mind. I'm going to start there. It's kind of interesting. I know those of you out there who have a little bit of the creative OCD are going to be like, you can't do that. You can't let the backdrop cut through her shoulders. That's not right. Remember, there is no right and wrong. I'm just going to give myself a chance to play. We're going to stay just like this. I love your position. I am going to readjust this light as well, though, because I want to bring that rim light back in. So we're seeing this in real time. It's going to have to go up a bit higher. And there it is. Now that's coming back in. That looks glorious. Oh, it's our angelic light. Yeah, I can hit high notes. Don't judge me, everyone. It's cool. So, this is looking so wonderful. Chin's going to come this way just a little, right there. We're going to play into that. Okay, now I'm definitely going to move the backdrop up. Jonny says stop. Please don't move. You look so perfect. Don't breathe. Don't do. No, you can breathe. You can move too if you need to. So, right, I just want to illustrate, we moved Paulina to the table. The key light went up and it went forward. The background light went up. This backdrop is going to go up. That means our background light here is going to go up, and then we're going to have to readdress. So every time we move our subject or we change the angles within our scene, we have to reevaluate everything. The devil is in the details, as they say, or the Johnny's in the details. I don't know, something's in the details that's important. Whatever your respective god or goddess is. All right. So now we're going to take a look at this, and this is phenomenal. This is why we're here right now, everyone. Beautiful. We're going to stay just like that. I'm going to turn up this fill light just a little bit. And we'll bring your chin back toward that light just a little point. And let's extend that arm out just a little as well. There, that's perfect. These are so glorious. Eyes right through me. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. These are looking insane. All right, so the other thing that I'm going to do really quickly is I'm going to build this box up. Now, I'm going to be honest with all of you, all right? Little real talk with Jonny. This segment was supposed to be 8 minutes long. Rachel, our production maestro, was just like, Jonny, it's 22 minutes long. I'm getting lost in what I'm doing, right? This is what I do. This is part and parcel. I'm so excited to be working with Paulina. I'm so excited to be playing with light. I'm so excited to be behind my camera. I'm so excited about all of these variables and interfacing. It's flow state. I'm losing track of time. I forgot that I was on film there for a second, but that's me being present with the person in front of my camera. That's me being present in my creative process, and I love this. We're definitely going to stay here, but this is what I aspire to for all of you. I want you to be excited to pick up your camera to do this and do the little frolic dance, like, I have my camera, and I'm going to create some art. That's what I want. I want that level of excitement. I just almost lost my lav mic. Just dangling. It's my tail. And I want you to create work that feels significant. I want you to look at the back of your camera and be like, I did this. This is mine. This is my art. That's where I want you to be. That's what this video is all about. That's what I'm all about as an educator. So let's do this. I was going to change something, but I love where she naturally went on her own. Also, this is why I love talking a lot. I'm sure a lot of you haven't got that about me at all. I loathe talking. But as I'm talking, Paulina's just moving, and then I'm like that. She's sort of just moving through things, and I'm keeping an eye on where she is. We're going to stay just like that. That is incredible. Wow. These are so wild. Perfect. Just like that. And a little bit of bend in those elbows. That's it. Same position, though. There. And Chin's going to go toward the front door. And now Chin's coming back to me. And then we're just going to bend those elbows out just up there. And that deep breath in. Perfect. Love where you're at right here. I don't know how these could possibly get any better or more striking.
Awesome.
These look insane. You probably can't see this right now relative to exposure, but wow. So, I don't know, everyone. I could literally shoot this look for the next 10 hours. Like, I don't know when to stop, and then she's clearly feeling herself, so we're going to do a little bit more here. At some point, we may need to cut this. But that's great like that. We're just going to go through a little bit more. Love where you're at. But, all right, for the sake of brevity, everyone, which I destroyed about 15 minutes ago, we're going to call it quits on this set. To be honest, I might keep shooting once that camera goes off, but this is the process that we worked into. So just to revisit, we're going to sort of turn these lights off one more time, by the way. Thank you. Thank you, Paulina. Thank you for being amazing. Rachel, thank you for being amazing. Always love on people on set. I could not do this with either one of them. Amazing women make my world go round. Bada boom. So we're going to do this the opposite way now. Let's turn off our fill light. So that's what's happening there, right? That fill was modulating the shadows in the scene, and on the shadowed side, the right-hand side of Paulina's face. We're actually, let's get really noir for a second, everyone. Let's turn off our primary key. Ooh, look at that silhouette now. How mysterious. All right, so we know that that light was working right here on our subject. We had this rim light coming in to create some separation, a little bit of a glow and that Hollywood feel. That's now off. Our background light is going to go off, which was creating the separation between Paulina and the primary backdrop. And then we have that final light that was working on the secondary and tertiary backdrops. That is how I layer light. I create an anchor. I build each piece one piece at a time, which I guess is how you would build one piece. But I work with each light independently, and then I pair them all together in a way that feels harmonious and, I guess, dramatic or emotive to me. And in this case, I could not be any happier with that. And the fact that this just got recorded is the flex. We killed it, y'all. Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you for spending some time with me on this set. So speaking about human connection, I think one thing that doesn't happen often enough for videos like this or at workshops or at conferences is we really don't get to know the people who we're photographing. So first of all, Paulina, once again, thank you so much for being here.
Of course,
You
pleasure.
killed it. We had like 3 segments planned and we got lost in that one with you. So that's a testament to how amazing you are. So would you mind letting people out there know like how long you've been modeling?
Sure, of course. Originally, I'm from St. Petersburg. I've been modeling already for almost 10 years
Wow,
now.
that's crazy. It shows.
Yeah, I love to do it. I was starting to do it when I was a teenager
Yeah,
at school, and I kind of like love it.
yeah.
Yeah, love to do it. Love feel this way. Love how it looks like at the camera always.
So like
Yeah.
outside of modeling, because it's just like how emotive you are and how you move, like have you acted or done dancing or anything like that as
Yeah,
well?
I did dancing like 10
Yeah,
years.
like
Yeah, at
classical?
school. Yeah, classical dancing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so are there any types of like projects that you're looking for now or that you would like to do, or is there a certain type of modeling that you enjoy the most?
Mm, Not yet, but I'm moving to Austin
Okay,
soon.
great.
Yeah, like in a month.
So you hear that. If you're in Texas, if you're in Austin, if you're around there, definitely reach out to Paulina. I'm going to make sure everyone has your Instagram.
Oh, sure.
Obviously, you'll get copies of all of
Thank you.
this. But once again, it was such a pleasure to work with you again.
For me as well. I love work with you.
Yeah, same.
Always.
So everyone, once again, this is Paulina. She's absolutely amazing. If you're looking for a spectacular model for video or stills projects, please reach out to her. I'll make sure that all of you have her Instagram. This is what it's all about, though. I mean, we're behind the camera, and ideally, when we're at our best, we're celebrating the people in front of our camera, and we're telling their stories. And in the process of telling their stories and celebrating them, we get to tell our stories and be celebrated as well. So never lose sight of that. You're all amazing. Thank you for spending this video with us, and thanks for
Thank you
being
for
awesome.
you.
Yay. Bye.
Bye.
Wow, what an absolutely incredible day. For someone who likes to talk as much as me, it's odd to be to a point where I'm almost speechless. I'm positively exhausted and so grateful for all the right reasons, and I am beyond elated with what we created today with and for you on video and in this video. I don't know. I guess the one thing that I want to address is obviously we flirted with the idea of working with multiple setups and specifically with working on a secondary setup that would have been here where we're closing down shop right now, where we were going to build things up from scratch versus deconstructing them from a place that's already built out. To be completely honest, things happen, life happens, and the team and myself got so wrapped up in what we were doing and got caught in a beautiful creative flow state that we allocated all of the time for the video to that one segment. But to be completely honest, I'm not upset about that. I'm really excited that you got to see me excited and that you got to see me being so inspired and deconstructing all of that thought process and workflow for you. And I hope that you found it useful and empowering and inspiring and all of those great things. Certainly, we're going to circle back and put another video together for you where we will build something up bit by bit and brick by brick. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I just want to say it's really interesting. This is the longest educational video that I've ever produced, and it's certainly the most in-depth deconstruction of my process that I've ever produced for video. And it's a great honor and joy for me to be doing that in partnership with PPA and the PPA community. If you're not part of PPA, I highly recommend checking out becoming a member. There are educational benefits, there are community benefits, there are insurance benefits. And in fact, I'm going to be speaking and teaching at PPA's conference, Imaging USA, in Nashville in January. So I hope to see you there. Otherwise, I don't know, everyone. I really hope that you're just walking away from this feeling inspired to explore light, to explore shadow, and feeling excited to create, to get behind your camera and to explore and to fail and to make and to do and to be and to just bring your visions to life. And I really hope that you walked away with a better understanding of seeing and working with light, specifically with layered lighting. And I can't wait to see what all of you create. If you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments. We'll make sure to get to all of those. Also, you can, of course, reach out to me anytime on social. IG is usually the best for me, and that's at Jonny Creative. I'll make sure that that gets listed somewhere down in this lower 1/3. Otherwise, everything's been absolutely wonderful, and I really appreciate this opportunity, and I appreciate you spending the day with my team and I. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks once again to Paulina, our model for the day, and to Rachel, production person extraordinaire, who handled so much and helped refine this down into something that was actually digestible. To be completely honest, we had a brainstorm session last night, and working this down into something that wasn't grandiose was crazy. My list for this video was about 12 pages long, and having to consolidate all that I wanted to do and say into something around a half hour proved to be a lot more challenging than I anticipated. But I'm really, really excited about what we created for all of you, and I can't wait to see what all of you create. Make sure to tag me and to reach out anytime. And I don't know, I think overall that's about it. I just encourage all of you to go forth and create, and never forget that art is life and life is art.